Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Path and Perspective. Today, as we enjoy this Labor Day holiday weekend, we're surrounded by either family or friends, and just the simple fact that we've got a long weekend. I want to just take pause a little bit. Every year on the first Monday of September, we celebrate Labor Day, a tribute not just to a holiday, but to the triumphs and everyday working men and women like yourself in America. Now, every time you work an 8-hour day instead of 14, I don't know, maybe you do work 14 hours. Every time your child goes to school instead of a factory, every time you receive overtime pay for that 14 hours that you just put in, or take a sick day, you're benefiting from a battle that started over 150 years ago. This is the story of American workers who stood together, fought together, and sometimes died together to create the middle class we know today. Now, there's a little bit of a journey here, and it begins about the 1700s, when journeyman shoemakers in Philadelphia formed the first union, launching a historic fight for pay, which was fair, and their dignity. The American dream for many was just a waxing nightmare. By the 1800s, as factories replaced farms, 13, 14, even 16-hour days were common. Laborers, often including children, faced grueling, unsafe conditions, sparking widespread calls to organize and protest. Early strikes, such as the 1835 Philadelphia General Strike and the famous Haymarket Affair of 1886, ignited public demands for lower hours and safer workplaces and remind us today of the real risks and even lives given to win equity. The year is 1866. The newly organized National Labor Union called on Congress to mandate an 8-hour workday. The 8-hour workday was secured for federal workers in 1868 and was made the standard nationally through the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, ensuring not just reasonable hours, but the right to rest and family time. The fight for an 8-hour workday became the rallying cry of the American labor movement, but it came at a cost. On May 4th, 1886, during the Haymarket Affair in Chicago, workers demanded fair hours faced deadly violence. This was also the year of the founding of the American Federation of Labor, the AFL, focusing on concrete economic gains. Lives were lost, but their sacrifice lit a fire that would burn for decades. But in the face of such injustice, a collective whisper began to rise. Workers, realizing their individual cries were unheard, began to organize. They formed unions. These weren't just clubs. They were a desperate, courageous act of unity, of demanding to be seen, heard, and treated with dignity. This was the birth of the labor movement, and its early years were marked by brutal struggle and immense sacrifice. Men and women literally gave their lives on picket lines and in the battles for basic rights, fighting corporate greed that saw human labor as nothing more than a disposable commodity. In 1916, the Adamson Act gave the 8-hour-a-day and overtime campaign a real boost when it was passed, specifically aimed at railroad workers. While adults fought for fair hours, America's children were trapped in a nightmare of industrial exploitation. The Keating-Owen Child Labor Act of 1916 limited the working hours of children and forbade the interstate sale of goods produced by child labor. Now, labor unions just didn't fight for their own members. They fought for the future. Social Security of 1935. Unemployment insurance, who, by the way, I know some people that are too proud to take unemployment insurance, even though they pay into it paycheck after paycheck after paycheck. And health and safety protections, all advanced by union influence and tireless advocacy during the New Deal era. Laws specified a maximum workday of 8 hours for children, required proof of age, and outlawed night work. The Keating-Owen Act of 1916 to 18 attempts to curb child labor, but is struck down by the Supreme Court. But by 1938, the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, caps the work week at 40 hours. It sets minimum wage, overtime, and ends most child labor. The 1940s through the 1960s marks the golden age of American unionism. The share of workers covered by a collective bargaining agreement was 27% in 1979. Nearly 1 in 3 workers had union protection. A decline follows, especially in the private sector. Well, why the decline? Globalization, aggressive corporate campaigns, regulatory rollbacks, decline in laws that once bolstered collective power. Executive compensation soars while middle-class wages stagnate, and inequality gap growing even as worker rights recede. Their fight was not in vain, though. Through relentless pressure, strikes, and political action, unions became the unsung architects of the American middle class. Now just think about it. The 8-hour workday, that was a union demand. The weekend, a union achievement. Federal holidays like the very Labor Day that we're enjoying this weekend, a direct result of labor advocacy. Child labor laws ensuring children are in schools, not in factories, driven by unions. Unemployment insurance, a safety net for when times get tough, pushed by the labor movement. Social Security, offering dignity in retirement. That's a core part of that same era's progressive reforms, strongly supported by unions. Even the very concept of workplace safety regulations, something that we often take for granted, was born from the blood and sweat of unions' battles for better conditions. These aren't just some historical footnotes that I came up with. These are the very cornerstones of the quality of life most Americans expect today. Now, for union members, these benefits often extend even further. They've secured better wages, comprehensive health insurance, retirement plans, paid sick leave, and transparent grievance procedures through what's known as a collective bargaining agreement, or a CBA. This is where their collective voice truly shines, negotiating for better terms that any individual worker couldn't achieve alone. In a union, your worth isn't dedicated solely by a company's bottom line. It's negotiated by a united force. Yet, as we celebrate these monumental achievements, a disquieting trend casts a long shadow. Since the 1970s and 80s, we've seen a significant shift. This was the era when deunionization began in earnest, fueled by a changing economy, political shifts, and aggressive anti-union tactics by corporations. Laws that once strengthened union workers' rights to organize were weakened or rolled back. And what happened? As union membership declined, so did the collective bargaining power of the American worker. Now, despite executives' pay ballooning, CEOs now earn nearly 300 times the average worker, and CEO pay has soared over 1,000% since 1978, while workers' raises barely outpace inflation. How about that? Union power has struggled to keep up. This growing inequality underscores why unions, now more than ever. And this brings me to my conclusion. So, this Labor Day, let's remember the sacrifices, the struggles, and the victories. Let's recognize that the comforts that we enjoy just didn't appear. They were fought for by ordinary people like you and me, who dared to demand a better path and perspective for all. You know, I did a video which shows the rise of prices from the beginning of this year to today, and it's pretty revealing just how much stuff has gone up, and what you didn't expect to go up did go up. So these new economic challenges that we face and an evolving workforce, the lessons from labor history remain profoundly relevant. Our collective voices still holds power. Understanding this legacy is not just about the past, it's about shaping a more equitable future. Hey, thanks for joining me on my channel. I know this probably sounds like a school project, but it's not. It's something that I've got a passion for. Please like and subscribe, and until next time, keep your perspective clear and your path open.